His somewhat Spartan workstation inside the offices of the Times-Dispatch belie the experiences that Paul Woody has shared with his readers over the past 40 years. But then again, journalism wasn't exactly his life's plan as a student at VCU.
I used to think, well, I'll just go to law school. But now I realize they like good grades and good LSATs, and I don't think the plan would have worked so well.
Hello, I'm Paul Woody.
Given his interest and appreciation for sports, he was encouraged to begin writing for the Commonwealth Times, the VCU student newspaper. After stints there and as an editor at VCU Magazine, he was hired by the Richmond News Leader in 1979, 2 weeks before the birth of his first child. While he has covered nearly every level of athletics in the state,
and there were some people in there that were kind of weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know some of those guys.
Paul is best known for his work following the Washington Redskins, an assignment that serendipitously fell into his lap.
I remember I was standing in the middle of the sports department, looking blankly into space. Jack Brenner said, "Hey, do you want to go to Redskins training camp for a week?" And I said, "Sure."
That was in the summer of 1980, when the paper had no official beat writer covering the nearest NFL franchise. His decades in covering the team since have not been without scrutiny. Always one to tell things as they are, Woody has taken his share of shots as the Redskins' fortunes have faded. And he wasn't the only one.
And this guy who I don't know, and he doesn't know me, he just says, "You know who I don't like?" And everyone's kind of quiet, and I'm like, oh, I know what he's going to say. And he goes, "That Paul Woody guy. He just is always writing bad stuff about them." And everyone kind of looks at me and awkward chuckles and laughs, and they're looking at me, and I don't really say anything. And he looks at me and he goes, "What, is he your dad or something?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, he is. And he was like, "No, he's not. No way. Show me your driver's license." So I took it out and I showed him, and he was like, "Oh, well, he just never says anything good about him." And I was like, "Well, there's nothing good to say about him. You know, he's not going to sugarcoat it."
That backing from his son was only part of a much larger support system at home, which consisted of a good deal of patience and understanding about a job that isn't 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday.
It's not like laying brick, but it's a lot of weekend work. It's a lot of night work. It's a lot of deadline work. People can sometimes get worn down.
Well, it just seems normal to me. Football is a long season, and like I said, he works long after the game is over. So it just seems normal to me, and we joke that when people say, "How do you make your marriage work? You know, you've been married a long time," and I always say, "Well, Paul travels a lot, so."
No one would be able to pick a favorite story or subject after 40 years of work, but the stories Paul thinks about the most don't involve sports at all. On the day of the Virginia Tech shootings in 2007, Woody was sent to Blacksburg for what he called 3 days of sadness. The people he wrote about stay with him today.
I'll never forget going there. I'll never forget being there. I'll never forget how that was one of the biggest stories in the world at the time. And I remember I felt like you were right in the middle of it. And I always will remember, I felt like this could be the last time these people are going to be written about. So this has to be good. I always remember those pieces.
And anyone who Paul has chronicled will remember him as well. When he leaves the offices for good, there is a lot that will walk out with him.
Paul is probably our #1 most recognizable face of maybe even the whole newspaper, that, you know, people around town know who Paul is, trust Paul with their stories. You think about some of the great stories he's told, where people open up their lives and their stories and really trust Paul and know he'll do them justice and he'll do it right.
And he's never really approached it with, how can I get people riled up or how can I get a reaction? He's just sort of told it like he sees it, and he's been doing it for so long that I think people at least appreciate that it's coming from a place of experience.
I'm very, very proud. Doing anything for 40 years is noteworthy, but the energy and care he's put into his writing, I think, is pretty remarkable.
All I've tried to do is come in, work hard, do my very best, be fair with people. It's already difficult, to be honest with you. So many people have emailed, called, written. People, you know, the lost art of letter writing. People have written. And if I'd known how popular I was, I probably would have stayed a little while longer.